Ladies and gentlemen, live from the nation's capital, we are not ashamed of the good news of conservatism, for it is the power of liberation. First to the Republican and then the socialist. Yours truly, the exceptional one, in the his ear. So glad to have you here with us tonight. Listen, I am enamored by the fact that we have a very large viewing audience. Glad to have everyone in the hizzy. Tap him a little note there. Mary Brockman, our bouncer, is in the hizzy. If you diss her, you diss me, and you will be dismissed. And of course, the ever-loving Mrs. Biggs. She's watching via Ustream and live stream. So much going on in our country right now that we actually have to spend time discussing why it is prudent for you not to have to pay taxes. It defies human logic, but that's what we are, people. And tonight, I want to spend a little time talking with you about what Obama says, what Hillary says, what Biden says, and even what the conservative media is saying in certain places. But I don't think they're really conservative, but it is this whole concept that you're not patriotic if you're not paying federal income taxes. And tonight's show is entitled, Obama Says Paying More Taxes is Patriotic. Is Donald J. Trump unpatriotic? That's what we got to ask tonight. The federal income tax conundrum of progressives and the incredible tax guilt of conservatives is what we're really taking a look at tonight. And even deeper, because, you know, like when I do my shows, we don't have a guest at times, which some people say is more beneficial than having the guest. But, and I do have a concern about guestings per se, but we want to go real deep with this. Until 1913, the United States of America did not have a federal income tax. That means that this nation got along from 1789 to 1913, almost 200 years without a mandated federal income tax. That means that we fought the War of 1812 without a federal income tax. That means that we expanded from the shores of Virginia to the shores of California without a federal income tax. In fact, and we're going to get into this, our nation was founded by antithesis to the taxation by the Brits. So for almost 200 years, we were a nation that believed in patriotism being repelling taxation, whether you were represented or not. So the question tonight, which is at the deep end of the pool, because at shadow end of the pool, you're talking about whether Obama and Donald Trump, whether they're patriotic or not. And we'll talk about that. In the mid part of the pool, you're talking about the federal income tax conundrum of progressives and the incredible tax guilt that's been put upon conservatives. But here's the real deep pool question. Is it the job and purpose of government to redistribute wealth? That's the question that you will not hear Bill O'Reilly talk about, or the Five, or many other stations. We're really talking about whether we believe in capitalism or Marxism, and whether you feel guilty about being a capitalist. So tonight we're going to talk about that in our first hour. Second hour, Sir Mark, the Bloviating Zeppelin, will be joining us from the unknown position in the world that he's in. Because, the sackhead people, they're trying to find a spot to run to where Hillary Rodham Clinton becomes president. Yeah, someplace offshore. So they're doing some intensive labor in terms of finding a offshore residence, a headquarters for Sackheads Radio. So he'll be joining us as one of the spies out in the land. And I want to thank you all so much for being with us. You know how we start this program off. And I'm very grateful for you all being here. Indeed. William Green, glad to have you here. We love you, William. And as more and more people are coming in, listen, you know how we do this. We say the Pledge of Allegiance for our program. And there are some people who don't know it and believe that, quite frankly, that this is unpatriotic. I dispel that every night. Kids, why don't you take it away? Show us how to do it right.
Parents, ready, begin. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Woo! That's what I'm talking about, people. That's what I'm talking about. You should be excited when that happens. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get into the shallow pool of conversation right after this particular break. You're listening to the Exceptional Conservative Show live from the nation's capital, and I'm your host, Ken McClinton. Tonight, we're really going to explore some deep stuff over the next 60, and it gets even better in the second hour of our program. We'll be right back with more of the best right after these messages.
Hey, it's Jersey Joe, Hook Reaver, Common Sense. You can catch me every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on shrmedia.com. That's every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, shrmedia.com.
Now, Brownells, we know you may have only one shot to harvest that trophy, so we have thousands of accessories and replacement parts to improve your chances. We know how much you love to shoot, so our Gunsmiths articles and videos will help you do more and get more out of your guns. We also value your hard work and money. That's why only Brownells backs up everything we sell with a 100% unconditional lifetime guarantee. Brownells, the world's largest supplier of firearm accessories and gunsmithing tools.
It's a love story like no other. From God's heart to yours. And for 30 years, it's been at the heart of every book, Bible, CD, gift, and resource from ChristianBook.com. Over 500,000 products, always at the very best value. ChristianBook.com. Everything Christian. Because it's our story, too.
They're gorgeous. This is awesome. Amazing.
I love the color. What if I told you perfectly polished nails were just a spray away? Hi, I'm Taylor Baldwin, and you're going to fall in love with this. It's Spray Perfect, the spray-on nail polish that gives you perfect polished salon-looking nails without stressing the details. Look, Spray Perfect gives you all over gorgeous color in seconds for the world's fastest manicure. And don't stress the mess. The extra polish washes right off your skin with water.
The color is unbelievable. It's so solid. It came right off my fingers. I can't wait to tell my friends about it. I love it.
The secret is Spray Perfect Smart Polish formula that only sticks to your nails but easily washes off your skin with water. Perfect. And unlike bottle polish that tips, drips, and takes forever to put on, with Spray Perfect, you get smooth, easy, complete coverage in seconds.
This is really, really brilliant. I love that it stays on my nails and that it is off my skin. And the color is fantastic.
Whether you're left-handed or right-handed, it's so simple to spray on. For beautiful chip and crack-resistant polish you'll love to show off. And watch this. Spray Perfect is great for toenails too, because it's so easy to do. Ladies, your perfectly polished nails are just a spray away with Spray Perfect. Call or go online to get Spray Perfect in all of these fabulous colors.
From day's first light till night's last glimmer, your satisfaction is our responsibility. On the range or in the field of duty, you can rely on Brownell's lifetime guaranteed gun parts, tools, and supplies. Anytime, any place. That's how we've done business since 1939. Brownell's.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Exceptional Conservative Show live from the nation's capital. Tonight, we're going to put our focus on 3 different topics, and there'll be breaks in between these topics so you know exactly what I'm talking about. Our first area is dealing with the concept that it's patriotic to pay taxes. I know some of you all are reeling at this particular moment because you just can't quantify that in any manner possible. In fact, you might find this to be humorous in the sense that on the actual 1040 form, I've always looked at it as a pathway to liberty, in a sense. There is money that's taken out of your tax, out of your payroll every day. There is a certain amount of money that the federal government expects to take from you. Now, some people early on in the first $0 to $10,000 thinks is an insurmountable, a surmountable amount. I mean, it's just a small donation to the great state federal government of the United States of America. You have to, because you're paying for education, and you're paying for the water, and you're paying for this, and you're paying for that. So it's important, and it's very easy when you're looking at the first $10,000 of your income. But if only the tax rate was the same after the 10,000. In fact, what happens is you begin to see that the more money you make, the more the government's willing to take from you. And we'll get into all the details of why they even take it. But it seems the more money you make, the worse off you are with the federal government. Now, remember, if you listen to the progressives of today, the federal government's there to make sure that you're prosperous. They want to see that you are prosperous. When in truth, not really. They only want you to make more so that they can take more from you. It's kind of like the tick on your dog. You see, while the tick will bring unhealthy causations to your dog, they want your dog to be healthy so that they can extract the blood. The more blood they extract, the bigger they become, and the more healthy they become. But the exchange here, because at first the dog doesn't really matter that the tick is there. It's such a small thing. But sooner or later, it gets to a point where there are behaviors that are adjusted in the dog because the dog is becoming more sick from the fact that that tick has multiplied on its body. Oh, sure. One tick here, one tick there, another tick in. The next thing you know, that dog isn't as healthy as it used to be. In fact, the dog doesn't eat as much. The dog doesn't produce as much blood. And then eventually, after the ticks have taken their spoils, then they leave behind an incredibly sick and unproductive animal. Obama says paying more taxes is patriotic. And in fact, let me just go to that because a lot of people say, Ken, you're just making this stuff up because that's the kind of guy you are. You're evil like that. And it's okay. I don't mind being evil. I'm an evil man. But when you look at this particular article, and it's Fox News, so forgive me if you are biased towards or against. Back in 2012, Barack Hussein Obama made it abundantly clear. He was saying to us, the American people, that patriotism is built on you supporting government programs. Now, mind you, I know exactly when all this changed. This all changed in 1913, thanks to the progressive income tax plan. But by the time we have moved from 1913 to 2012, almost 100 years, 99 years, we have moved from the foundational principle by which this country was created to one in which you are told that you are unpatriotic because you don't want the government taking more blood from your dog. That you don't want the unhealthy causations that will come because the government has begun to weigh on your payroll check or your income from your business, whether you're small, medium, or large. In fact, let me read to you exactly what the great Negro president said. He said, instead of the middle class paying more, we should ask the wealthiest Americans to pay a little more, a modest amount, so that we can reduce our deficit and still make investments in things like education that help our economy grow. And I want you to know, no matter how many graduates we've had this year, the number of openings for them are greatly reduced in comparison to what Obamacare has done to the profitability of most of the businesses that are required to create the jobs so that you can hire those who have just graduated. Obama goes on to say, based on the progressive thinking that if you tax people more, the economy will grow more. Check that out, Ireland. He said, here's the thing. There are a lot of well-to-do Americans, patriotic Americans. See, here we go. I want you to get the qualifier here for your patriotism. Here's the thing. There are a lot of well-to-do Americans, patriotic Americans, who understand this and are willing to do the right thing. So now it is a moral principle. So not only do you have a national principle, which is totally an abhorrence to what our founding fathers believed, now you have a moral proclamation placed upon you that the right thing to do is to pay more taxes. Now remember, there was the Pharisees and the Sadducees who questioned Jesus paying taxes. And quite frankly, he told his disciple to go to the river's edge, reach in and get a fish. And that fish will have a gold coin on it and it will take care of all my taxes. Well, some of us don't have fish like that or a river nearby because EPA has told us that we can't reach into the water. But somehow there are two things that I want you to get these principles here as I write them down. Because those who have the bully pulpit regarding the White House, basically, because most of the churches have failed in all of this, silence, you can't talk on these particular things. Basically, state-run churches will tell you the very same thing in propaganda. That it is morally right for the government to take from you what they didn't create and disperse it to whom they ever will please after they've taken their port of the possession. And that it is patriotic. That literally, more than just being the right thing to do, it is the American way. The American way is to make certain that you, the American people, take your wallet, open it up, and give whatever the contents are to the government, because you can't spend it wisely. And you got issues and problems, or at least your neighbor has issues and problems that you, the patriotic American, want the government to solve for you. If you are truly patriotic, America, you will allow the government to take from you that which you created. Oh, wow. Patriotism. Let's go here for a moment. What does it mean to be a patriot? I want to take it directly from the online etymology dictionary. What it means, in all simplicity, is that you are a fellow countryman. A fellow countryman. So this is what Obama and Joe Biden are saying to you. You're not really American if you don't want the government to take from you that which you created. Really? What proof? I got you, kid. I finally got that conservative. No way they ever said that on nowhere.
I want to know what you're going to do specifically about the money that they've just lost in the stock market, about their 401k.
We're going to create jobs. Here we're going to create jobs. This isn't pie in the sky. 2 million jobs if we invest the $70 billion a year. We want to invest in infrastructure. Take a look. We want to take money and put it back in the pocket of middle-class people.
Anybody making over $250,000 is going to pay more.
You've got it's time to be patriotic, Kate. Time to jump in. Time to be part of the deal. Time to help get America out of the rut. And the way to do that is they're still going to pay less taxes than they paid under Reagan.
Albert Einstein said two things are infinite, the universe and human stupidity. And I'm not sure about the universe. Human stupidity. I want to take you back to something that he says here. He's going to take money out of the pockets of people and then give it back to them. And that will create jobs.
About the money that they've just lost in the stock market, about their 401k.
We're going to create jobs. Here we're going to create jobs. This isn't pie in the sky. 2 million jobs if we invest the $70 billion a year. We want to invest in infrastructure. Take a look. We want to take money and put it back in the pocket of middle-class people.
We want to take money and put it back in the hands of middle-class people because that will create jobs. Now, strangely enough, as we come to our first break, it is difficult for me to understand how the common criminal on the street would take wads of money from my wallet and then hand it back to me and say, go create jobs. It doesn't happen that way. I want you to understand in principle that there are those who want to convince you that patriotism is built on allowing the government to do to you what you would not allow another man to do to you. In fact, patriot and its 1600 meaning was loyal and disinterested supporter of one's country. And a lot of Americans have become that. Loyal to the progressive agenda and disinterested. I don't want to vote. I don't want to get involved. Nothing changed. My vote doesn't count. Well, guess what it does? It does indeed. Loyal and disinterested supporter of this country, your vote does count. Why in the 1740s did, quote unquote, now Americans, why did they not like the term patriot? Here's the reason. And we'll take it from the words of Horace Walpole. The name of patriot had become, 1744, a word of derision. Horace Walpole scarcely exaggerated when he said that the most popular declaration which a candidate could make on the hustings was that he had never been and never would be a patriot. Now, Walpole writes this in the 1740s. I want to ask you a quick question. The United States, was it the United States in the 1740s? No, it wasn't. It was the colonies of Britain. And why did the term patriot be seen as a derision, a negative, a fighting words, almost yo mama kind of fighting words back in the 1740s? Well, it was very simple. The Brits had established taxation without representation. And to be a patriot of Britain was to be a recipient of the invitation for tar and feathering. Our nation was founded in antithesis to a ever-increasing government and its representation advantaging itself against our wealth. And then saying, because of a noble cause, it is morally and patriotically acceptable. Ladies and gentlemen, Obama tells us that Donald J. Trump is unpatriotic. Well, Obama to me is King George. So I would say to you tonight, Donald J. Trump is unpatriotic. You see, he used that 1044 just the way you and I use it. And we're hoping, as we're rolling the dice, that we have enough business expenses, deductions, write-offs, that we don't owe the federal government. Now, remember, I started off by telling you on that 1044, towards the very end, the government has already taken out of your payroll taxes. This is their guise to ascertain more wealth from you. Is it a sin because you wish to protect your wealth? I say to you, morally, it is not. And patriotically, it is not. You see, a real patriot and a real moral individual in the United States during the day of our founding fathers would find Obama, Biden, and Clinton all egregious successors of King George. And let's just say their ending would not have been very good in our founding day. When we come back, ladies and gentlemen, I want to talk with you about our second area, the federal income tax conundrum of progressives and the incredible tax guilt of conservatives. You're listening to the Exceptional Conservative Show live from the nation's capital. And I just want to say this real quick before we go to break. Everyone is right in our chat room. Envy, lies, and hatred. I'll just give you that as a segue to what we're going to talk about in our next quarter.
It's a love story like no other. From God's heart to yours. And for 30 years, it's been at the heart of every book, Bible, CD, gift, and resource from ChristianBook.com. Over 500,000 products, always at the very best value. ChristianBook.com. Everything Christian. Because it's our story too.
Hi, my name is Christopher Arnold. I'm the executive chef of Infused Restaurant, and today I'm gonna walk you through some of the meals that we prepare here. So we're making a pizza. We use fresh Italian sausage that we cook here and slice it up. Our pizza dough is an in-house made. Our pizza sauce is in-house made. So everything is fresh and ingredients. This is our Thai curry chicken. The sauce is made with coconut milk and a Thai red curry. It is juicy chicken thighs as well as some mixed vegetables, served with jasmine rice and pita bread. So now we're going to prepare our famous blackened tilapia and grits, our fish and grits on the menu. Once the fish is ready, then our meal will be complete. Let me tell you about our infused heat burger. So we kick the spice up just a little bit with our infused sauce. We start off with 80-20 USDA round chuck ham patty burgers, nice half a pound of burger, and we're gonna grill it to perfection. After I flip the burgers, we add the sauce and let it cook on into the meat just a little bit. We're gonna add a little bit of pepper jack cheese to this burger, spice it up a bit.
Ladies and gentlemen, 6339 Allentown Road is the place to be for the exceptional one. Yes, a burger made in paradise. Double bacon, double burger. Biggest of my face, I tell you, it's huge. I was loving it. Ladies and gentlemen, when you have the opportunity, 6339 Allentown Road, Temple Hills, Maryland. Lovely infused restaurant. Oh my God. Great, great, great food. Ladies and gentlemen, today we are told that the most evil man on the planet happens to be Donald J. Trump. No, not because he wants borders to be closed, although that does make him evil. Not because, well, what he said about the Venezuelan chick, even though she was involved in a murder. No, you see, for those of us following along at home, Donald J. Trump is evil because he does not want to pay federal income taxes. Clutch the pearls. Oh, Lord Jesus. Woo! Now, I want to ask you all something. And for individuals who know me, I've been doing federal income taxes for people since I was 18 years old. I was one of the youngest individuals to have been trained by the Internal Revenue Service to actually run an office to do volunteer income taxes. No matter how poor you are, and I really feel sorry for women who have, over the years, they've had 4 or 5 kids, they've been single mama, had a household, and now the kids are leaving and starting their own businesses and going off to themselves, and they never changed any of their W-4 information, their withholding information. So they're still being withheld at the level when they had 4 kids, and now they're down to just 1. And when they come in to get their taxes done, they end up owing because, well, the earned income tax credit, which is another redistributive wealth product, doesn't give them enough. And the child tax credit no longer applies to them. The child is older than 16. And there are no college deductions and none of that. So literally, the standard deduction is there for them, but the deductions for dependency have been reduced so much that their liability is higher than they expected. And the little bit of money that was being taken out of their check, because that's the way they had it organized on their W-4 withholding form, isn't enough to cover what the government wants to take from them. And how many of you know that some of those women who were sitting in my office started unbuttoning their shirt? Ma'am, is it too hot in here? You want me to put the air conditioning on or something? I know we're in the middle of winter, but is it too hot? The number of guys who would slide a piece of paper across the table and say, could you do that? The number of people that all of a sudden had given $5,000 to Goodwill in furniture and food. And come on, people! Even the most aggressive progressive doesn't want to owe the federal government and doesn't want to pay taxes. Why do they not want to pay taxes? Because they don't want the burden of having to come out of their wealth for any more than what has been taken from them. These are the same people that will hold the Hillary Clinton arrow up and say, hey, I support Hillary. I want more of the wealthy man's money to be taken from him and given to poor people like me. I want more to be taken from others and given to me. But when it comes due for me to give to someone, I don't want to do that because it's taking my wealth. That's the federal income tax conundrum for progressives. Here's the incredible tax guilt of conservatives. If I don't give money to the government, then the poor will go without. Now, I've used Jesus in the first segment here. Do you mind if I use him again? I think it would be apt at this point because he had a lot to say about taxes in his day. In fact, in the Sermon on the Mount, he made it very clear the poor will be with you always. The poor will be with you always. Now, when he was speaking of the poor, he wasn't talking about just the one who's sitting at the temple gate with a hand out as a beggar, waiting for someone to put something in there so that he would be fed for the day, which would go back to the quote, you can feed a man for a day and he will still be in need, but if you teach a man to fish, he'll never be a beggar. Y'all look that up. So literally, in a sense, the incredible tax guilt on conservatives is this. If you, who are wealthy, and for progressives, anyone who has money is wealthy. That's why poor people need to be very fearful of the progressives. The progressives will say that it's government that created that job. It wasn't you. It was a teacher that gave you the wisdom. It wasn't God giving it to the teacher to give it to you. For some odd reason, you succeeded. You did better than they did. Even though they sat in the same classroom, had the same opportunities, maybe the equal opportunities weren't there in the same classroom, I suppose. Could have made the same choices you made in life. They did not. You did. You were rewarded. You should feel guilty. Do you understand how evil you are for being successful? When everyone else fired you, when everyone else threw you aside, when everyone else cursed you, you hung in there. You borrowed from mom, you borrowed from dad, you borrowed from Uncle Joe, you reached down into your own wealth and you pulled out the money necessary to invest in that little hickamajig that you put together, and the next thing you know, you're producing and you're creating jobs and you're creating profits, and people see that and they want to now invest in the fact that you have created profits off of that hickamadoo that you put together, that idea, that construct, that engineered thought of intellectual property. You did that, but you didn't do that. The government did it for you, and you owe the government. You owe the government because you took advantage of the education. You took advantage of the water. You took advantage of all these things that other people did, and we took advantage of as a government and tax. And, well, the bottom line is you didn't do that. We did. And you owe us. And you owe the poor people because your success took something from those poor people who sat in the same classroom you did, who didn't do the homework assignment when they were told to do it, who got into a car that did not belong to them at the age of 14 and pulled out a gun that they were able to get off the street illegally from someone else and shoot at a cop. Yeah, them people. You owe them because you took something from them and made them do the things that they did. And here's the tax guilt and all of that. Tax guilt is very simple. You're being accused of this term here. I want to make it very plain to you. And everyone did a very good job in terms of the segue there, understanding where we're going. Wise people understand exactly where we're going. Greed. Greed is excessively eager desire to possess. Now, for those of you who are listening via SHR Media, those who are listening via High Plains Pundit Media with Dan Butcher, where Jane does all the work. He gets all the credit. For the great people at Red Nation Rising who are listening at 2 a.m. in the Liberty Channel, you're greedy. All of you are greedy. I'm greedy. The Exceptional Conservative Show and the Exceptional Conservative Network. We're greedy. Even though I really haven't made a dime on this. In fact, I haven't made a dime on this in 6 years. Though I'm thunderously trying. I'm greedy. I've lost so much in the process of doing this that those things, material and immaterial to others, but I'm greedy. You know, greed is a sin. Now, why am I here talking to you about greed? I know that I've spent tens of thousands of dollars a year on this particular project. I know others who have spent a whole lot more. When I travel to places, I don't receive any stipend. I don't get any pay for doing what I do. There's no one paying for my hotel room. There's no one paying for my food. There's no one paying for the gas that I put in the car or the airplane ticket it takes for me to get to where I need to be. All that is my investment. All that is mine. I don't see the government coming over and apologizing to me because they didn't make any contribution. In fact, they don't. But I heard from Hillary Rodham Clinton, how can you be a successful businessman if you lose money? Notice how the question is never put to her, how can you be a successful legislator if you lose money? Did you know Hillary Rodham Clinton was elected into office as a senator for the state of New York? And in the year that she came in, there was a $127.3 billion surplus. Now, I must tell you that she had nothing to do with that, because the election year that you come in, that budget has already been taken care of by someone else, the previous Congress. Your next budget year that matters is 2002, the following year, of course. Under the leadership in the U.S. Senate of Hillary Rodham Clinton, we went from a $127.3 billion surplus to a $157.8 billion deficit. We lost $400 billion. Well, I guess things will get better, right? I mean, since she understands economics, like, I mean, Adam Smith would be sitting in her classroom, right? No, in her next year in Senate, we lost $377.6 billion. In the next year, 2004, $413 billion deficit. 2005, there was a $318 billion deficit. But she was reelected into office despite all the deficits that the Senate had made. In 2006, there was a $248 billion deficit. In 2007, a $161 billion deficit. And whoa, Nelly, in 2008, a whopping $459 billion deficit. We're talking budget. We're talking the amount of money that the government spends versus what they brought in. Literally, they take a balance sheet and it's filled in red. Filled in red because there are more noble concepts and ideas that have to be funded by the government, because the American people won't do it, because the American people are lazy, like Obama says when he's overseas, or they're greedy, like Hillary Clinton says right here at home, or Joe Biden says, I'm patriotic. You're greedy and you're lazy. If you just gave more, the government could do more. And that's why we have this great fascination with almost $20 trillion in national debt. Did you know most of that national debt came in after the war on poverty? Clutch the pearls. No, really? Yes, it did. We've spent more on Lyndon Baines Johnson's war on poverty than all the wars that we have ever fought in, and all of the budgets for our military services in the history of this country. But you are supposed to feel guilty because your government, which practices misspending, in fact, tells you that they misspend because of your greed. You're supposed to feel guilty because on that 1040 form where they give you nice lines where you can deduct the stuff that you do and make money on, if you made money, and if you didn't make money, the losses that you made. You're greedy. You're greedy because you legally can do something to protect your wealth. This is an attack against not Donald J. Trump, my friends, but against you, the American people. Well, Ted Cruz talked about a postcard for doing your income taxes. Hillary Clinton wouldn't mind you doing a postcard either. 100%. If you would just give all your money to the government, we could solve all of the problems. Even though Jesus once said the poor will be with you how long? Always. Sometimes when we think on certain things, we lose the concept. The concept that the tax code actually fits what Marx wanted America to become after the Civil War. Remember the letter he wrote to Abraham Lincoln? You see, the progressives have been marching as to war since the Civil War. According to the most recent release IRS data, in tax year 2009, the top 1% of taxpayers paid 36.73% of all federal income taxes. The top 5%, 58.66%. The top 10, 70.47. The top 25, 87.3. The top 50% paid 97.75% of all the taxes. Literally, half of America is paying the taxes for half of the Americas. 97 point, but you never hear that quoted, even on Fox. Are 50% of Americans as devastatingly poor as those who happen to be in Uganda or Indonesia or in certain South American countries? No. The average American has 2 TVs, has a car, even the poor ones. So poverty, when you look at it, is a noble discovery. And yet, after we spent all of that money on the war on poverty, and we now have 50% of Americans paying 97.75% of all of the taxes in our country, we have not eradicated poverty. In fact, poverty has gone up in America. So what are we saying? That we are looking at exactly what Marx wanted. Marx wanted you to feel guilty for your success. Marx wanted you to hate Ronald Reagan. Abraham Lincoln did the tax to pay for the Civil War. And when the war was over, he had collected enough to pay it off, and they eradicated the income tax. The income tax was only 5%. What are you paying today? Ladies and gentlemen, if you're greedy and you know it, pay more taxes. If you're greedy and you know it, pay more taxes. If you're greedy and you know it, thank the Obama administration, Joe Biden, Hillary Rodham Clinton, and the media. Even the media makes you feel guilty because you're successful. God says in Deuteronomy 8:18 that he has given you the power to make wealth. Why should you feel guilty because you're using what God has given you? In the last quarter of our program, the fourth quarter, the quarter in which we are well known for not playing commercials, we're going to explore the very vital topic tonight. Is it the job and purpose of government to redistribute wealth? Think on it, a thing. Sir Mark, the Bloviating Zeppelin, will be joining us from the underground, wherever he is. We love you dearly. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Exceptional Conservative Show live from the nation's capital. We'll be back right after these messages.
At LawDepot.com, we decided to compare one of our easy-to-use online legal contracts against one prepared by a private lawyer. Sort of a lawyer taste test. We wanted to show how you could save hundreds of dollars on quality legal products, from wills to business startup packages. Unfortunately, the consultants misunderstood what we meant by taste test.
Needs more sauce.
Objection! Overruled. LawDepot.com. Trusted do-it-yourself legal.
I was in need of some advice from a lawyer, but I found this site and it saved me a fortune. Depot lets you easily customize legal documents. More than 2 million people have used Depot to create over 4 million legal documents and save over $1 billion in legal fees. Whether you are interested in protecting your estate, managing a rental property, setting up a business, or any other situation requiring legal forms, Depot's extensive library of documents and legal resources are able to assist you with all your legal needs. You get customized legal documents at a fraction of the price it would cost through a traditional lawyer. Quality legal documents since 2001. Click the link below.
Well, welcome to Freedom Fest 2015. I think this is the best Freedom Fest we've ever put together.
Freedom Fest is truly international. There's people from all over the world that come to Freedom Fest, not just to talk, but also to participate in dialogue, participate in the panels, to participate in the audience.
So hold your breath, lock your seatbelts. I hope you're at your Wheaties today.
We are enslaved by government mandates. What light bulb you can buy, what car you can drive, how you heat and cool your home, to what health insurance.
Europe actually has allowed itself to be held hostage of this entire Greek situation.
They have the courage to debate. You have debates on foreign policy, on taxes, on what's going on in the world, on how to invest and how to run your own life.
He used an example of restaurants. Don't open a restaurant because it's so competitive you'll never make any money. Really? I mean, been to Chipotle lately?
How many believe that Peter Thiel won the argument competition is overrated in America? And how many favor John Mackey's response?
So here's the moment many of you have been waiting for, myself included, and I think it's the reason why this room is completely packed all the way to the back as far as I can see.
I think I worked about 8 years to put together this debate.
I have to say, it's really kind of depressing to see people holding up the Reagan story, which is so obviously different if you pay any attention to the story, as that's the best argument? Really? That's the best argument?
And the middle class and the poor, the people you say you care most about, are the people who've been hurt the most by these policies because they've had no income growth at all.
Thank you. They already left 2 waters for me. I'll probably only need 1. So I appreciate it.
In America today, higher education is controlled by a cartel. And they say, oh, let's take out a loan and pay for this. And no one bothers to tell them that the market for Greek philosophers has been tight for 2,000 years.
So in terms of its 2 major policy objectives, stable prices and a stable economy, the Fed has clearly failed.
And if the Federal Reserve actually did the right thing, the market would crash.
Every country in the world has a lower corporate tax rate than us. Can we fix that?
This, in my view, is the premier libertarian event in the country.
You probably meet the largest cross-section of philosophically based groups of any conference anywhere in the world.
Some of the smartest people in our country come together here to discuss the ideas and challenges. This is an engaged group of individuals.
This is all about the mind. It's not about how fancy you are.
Feisty discussions, interesting people to meet.
I love it. This is my first time doing anything like this.
It's the only place you get this many people who agree with me. Nobody, I live in New York. Nobody agrees with me.
You know, war is not the health of the state. War is the death of liberty and freedom. And that's a mentality that is particularly strong in the Republican Party, but it's also strong in the Democratic Party.
I want government to be this small. I want individuals to be this big.
We are people when we are at our greatest that we lead by example. We don't jam it down anybody's throat. We don't force them to live our way. We don't nation build.
It's very interesting. There's a lot of variety of stuff. Really a lot.
Hear ye, hear ye.
everybody. Freedom Fest Court is now in session.
We are gathered here in this great sovereign state of Nevada to decide the fate of the country's central bank, the Federal Reserve.
Please place your hand on this edition of Forbes 400 Richest.
There was a bubble in many markets, and that is simply mathematically impossible without the Fed creating the money to make it happen.
The Fed is guilty, 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 guilty. Court is now adjourned. God bless America, and may you always ride on the eagle of freedom. Hallelujah, and good night.
I'm Joanne Skousen. I'm the founding director of the Anthem Film Festival, and we are in our 5th year. We started in a little room on the 26th floor at Bally's, and now we've grown to huge numbers. In fact, we have a fabulous lineup of shorts.
A police officer can wear a body camera, but you as a citizen may not have access to that footage.
Live from Las Vegas.
We recognize that Freedom Fest is a big tent.
Well, I happen to like Rand Paul. I really do. By the way, in some cases, they'll build a new hospital for $1.5 billion. You could build 7 hospitals, 10 hospitals for that if you knew what you were doing.
We had almost 300 speakers.
Without a doubt, our most successful Freedom Fest ever.
I just adore the experience. It's like a saturation of the senses, a saturation of the mind. I learned so much. I come home with way too many books. I adore Freedom Fest. I'm definitely coming back again next year.
Ladies and gentlemen, I encourage you to join us at Sackheads Radio with the Bloviating Zeppelin, Dr. Michael Jones, the underground professor, and Sackhead Sean, Sackhead Clint. Join us out at Freedom Fest this year. Freedom Fest 10th year, baby. And quite frankly, you're really going to enjoy it. It's no longer going to be at Planet Hollywood. They have gotten bigger than Planet Hollywood. I mean, last year was so big it couldn't fit, and they've moved, and it will be at Paris Resort, Las Vegas, July 19th through the 22nd of next year. You can register, and I'm going to tell you that you should do it now. Do it early, so that you will be able to get in and to have a wonderful, wonderful experience. Definitely go to freedomfest.com. freedomfest.com, freedomfest.com. For those who are listening to me in the Ukraine, those who are listening to me in Germany, those who are listening to me in Italy, in Spain, and in Africa, and in South America, and Australia, and Asia, register now. I'm telling you, it is the best thing you can do in terms of coming to Vegas next year. Early bird registration, $495 for an individual. $795 for a couple. And the regular rate is after June 1st of next year, $595 and $895. So definitely do it early. Get your room early. That's what we will be booking for at our favorite place out in Vegas. And I would encourage you to do the very same thing. You can do it also by calling 855-850-3733, extension 202. That's 855-850-3733, extension 202. That extension is FREE. For what? Freedom Fest. Basically, that's what it is. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to try to locate the Bloviating Zeppelin. It's going to be difficult because, listen, this election is so unstable that if whoever the victor is, you might have to have an underground place to find to actually broadcast from. Now that they've given the internet over to the United Nations, if they can find you, they will condemn you. So the Bloviating Zeppelin, Sir Mark, will be with us in just one moment. We're calling one ringy dingy one ringy two. Good evening.
Good evening,
Sir Mark.
You've reached the house of pain.
Oh, hopefully I get my same room 12.
tell you, at this point, I think I'm going to have to. I think I'm going to have to move you, say, to room 13.
Oh.
Either that, or go up another 5 flights to room 666. Your choice, sir.
Oh, I don't know if I can handle it. Oh, it's an increase. I'll take it.
Yeah, beware the altitudes. We'll issue you oxygen.
Listen, Bloviating Zeppelin, I hear that you, as well as Clint, are doing these spy observations, trying to find a headquarters, just in case Hillary Rodham Clinton becomes president.
Well, if you'd been on my property about a couple of hours ago when there was still sunlight, you would have seen me with a spade unearthing, just trying to dig down as far as I possibly can and then pull a big rock over myself if she gets elected. I've got a massive amount of dirt, but I can see the time remaining. I'm not going to be very successful.
I'm so sorry. So very sorry. But there is, and I want to discuss this with you. There seems...
OMG.
What is the OMG for, sir?
Oh my God. You know, Ken, I've had all day to think about this because I've been doing nothing for the past 4 days about writing pieces about the destruction of this country. So I knew you were going to call, and I enjoy talking to you. I really enjoy it. It's one of the highlights of my week. So after writing all of this stuff and realizing what's going on, I keep telling myself, about this time, I'm 210 over 190 in terms of blood pressure. And I tell myself, okay, when Ken calls, don't get jacked up. Take a big breath, in through the nose, out through the mouth. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Center, zen, find your center. And so what am I doing right now? I'm jacking myself up. I am in BZ pissed mode. I don't know any other way to say it. I was going to be centered and cautious and speak low and in endearing terms about everything. Everything's all right. It'll be just fine. And I'm sorry, I couldn't do it.
So we're not getting the NPR, Sir Mark. We're getting the InfoWar. Sir Mark.
You know, here's something kind of interesting about InfoWar. When I first became aware of Alex Jones, I like to steal 3 words from Monty Python. And my first 3-word phrase for Alex Jones was, "You're a loon." And then after the years, I started to realize, well, all right, maybe he's got stop clock syndrome where he's right maybe twice a day. And then I finally began to realize he's writing about stuff that the mainstream media isn't talking about. And I'm not saying that all of his shite is correct, but he's starting to get a little bit more right than he is wrong. And in the big scheme of things, when you actually have to craft your brain and mold it into that kind of a scheme, that's frightening. That's frightening to think that Alex Jones is getting more correct about a lot of the stuff that's happening around us right now. All I did is write about negativity this past weekend. I almost don't know where to start. I'm so sad. I wasn't even listening. There I go. I'm not even stopping. I need to stop. Take a breath. Sit down.
Ladies and
Clearly,
gentlemen.
I need to do some more heroin. That first reason is not working all right.
The morphine has not kicked in yet. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to NPR. Sir Mark, the Bloviating Zeppelin, you can easily get his stuff, and it's all righteous stuff, the Sir Mark stuff, at thebloviatingzeppelin.net. I wanted to ask you, sir, while we are here on the internet, I don't know if it has been exactly turned over just yet, because we'll probably know when it is. That secret place that you and Sackhead Clint have been looking for will actually become an existing facility, unmuted and unnoted to the rest of society, so that you could actually broadcast without fear of condemnation. But how is it that Obama has the power to turn over the internet to despots and dictators? Tell me that, sir. Uh-oh.
He doesn't need that power because the control that we had, past tense, over the internet was simply through ICANN. We had oversight of the internet. You know, it's no shock that in a way we invented we meaning the United States invented the internet, and that was not by way of Al Gore. The internet came about through the military, and the military wanted an easier and more direct way to communicate with various other nodes throughout the system. And by way of that, they essentially designed and created the internet, and then it sort of took off after that. Then there had to be a little bit of a sheriff in the internet, and that became ICANN, and that was the International Committee of Names and Numbers. In other words, when you go to your site and I'm a .net, for example, and the exceptional conservative is a .com, and there is a .us, a .uk, RU. There has to be a way of identifying through numbers and ISPs a way to communicate from one point to another, from one computer to another. So you can't just have all these other things going on. Somebody has to be able to be present to arrange all of these things. And that's essentially what ICANN was. And because we were the individuals that were responsible for the initial creation of the internet, and of course it exploded way after that, and it became the massive thing that it is today, we were still sort of the sheriff in town. And then Obama decided that for various reasons that I can state later if you're interested, he decided that it was time for the United States to relinquish control of ICANN to basically a commission, and a Euro commission, whose CEO is a piece of swill named Mr. Goran Marby, who drips condescension. He's ICANN CEO and president. And so officially, as of Friday, actually Saturday morning, the United States is in fact literally not in control of the internet anymore. And so whatever it is that that particular commission and those members and commissioners decide to do with the internet, they are in control. We are not. We have every bit the input, the creative input, or the importance of, say, Liechtenstein, or Ethiopia, or Madagascar. And so that's what we've done. We've ceded control of the internet to a completely unelected board, and they are not really what you'd call friends of free speech and friends of the United States.
Well. So, who has control over the unelected board then? Who has oversight over them?
We had it initially.
Yeah.
And we had control of it. Basically, it's a difficult thing to explain.
Yeah.
Essentially, I think perhaps the easiest way to say is that it was ours to lose should we decide to do it, because the infrastructure already existed on the ICANN side, and the last remaining wedge for complete ICANN control was the United States, up till now, insisting that we have more control over ICANN sayings than anybody else. Once we have ceded control, now truly ICANN is in charge.
Wow. So literally, we could have some guy some labor union guy in London decide, click the switch on free speech. Anyone who's a conservative can't talk on the internet. Am I right?
Well, here's the deal. It won't happen in such a nasty, crunching, abrupt way.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to do what I consider to be the logical extension. You have to play 2, 3, 4, 5, 20 moves down the line on the big plotting board. And that's this. When you look to countries that are essentially the most repressive, choose a country in the Middle East, China, Russia, North Korea, one of the first things that they wish to do is suppress communication. And then particularly in times of crisis, communication is even more critical. It's not necessarily so critical on the part of the involved government. It's more critical on the part of the persons that are fomenting the revolution itself. Mm-hmm. We know which countries are freer than others. The ones that I mentioned fall into the category not so much. So when you have a particular revolution, what you're doing is you're ceding power from the United States, and say if a consortium of various countries later on decide that they don't want to have anything done with regard to that, in its technological way, they can begin to shut down communications on the internet. And of course, that's the idea for those particular countries, because free communication from individuals is something that is completely anathema to them. They can't have it. They must have control. The government itself must have control. This is one of the few times, and I'm almost sorry I'm going to say this, but it's the truth, where the government of the United States actually did a fairly decent job of holding control of ICANN and then not interceding in any particularly oppressive way and screwing it up.
Yeah.
That's because they've mostly let it alone. They haven't focused on it quite so much yet. But now, as of Saturday morning, our time over here, we have in fact relinquished control of ICANN, and there are some who think that it is next to impossible to get back. And it's because of the possibilities that can occur in the future that have me concerned. And it's not just those countries, it's the movement that's occurring now locally, I say domestically, in the United States to shut off freedom now.
Mm-hmm.
There was an article, for example, I don't have it up on my laptop right now, so I can't tell you the exact number, but the United States is not the most free nation in the world. We're about number 10 or so.
Yeah.
Sadly, that's entirely shocking.
Yeah.
That's very shocking.
Well, will the legacy of Barack Obama pay a great price for this one move?
I wish I could say that I had supreme confidence in that, but I think I can tell you why it is that he wanted to do it.
Yeah.
His formative years were literally under communists, Marxists, Muslims, and socialists. He was taught that America's colonialist ways have damaged the entire planet, and as far as he's concerned, for that we must atone. This country, the United States of America, it shames Barack Hussein Obama. He is ashamed of us. There is little in his mind of which to be proud. And so his endless hammering on the various wedges that divide our country, that's what he does. He is, in fact, the divider in chief. His spiritual advisor, to remind everyone, was Pastor Jeremiah Wright.
Yeah.
If you don't remember, his 3 words, God damn America.
Yeah.
That's his mentor. And to his co-author, Bill Ayers, to his book, to his idols, Saul Alinsky, Richard Clower, Francis Fox Piven, Che Guevara, and more. I mean, we know what kind of people these folks are. And so with that in mind, that's his philosophy. That's who we elected. So if we're awake, if we're aware, we should not be much surprised that he was able to do that and that he wants to do it. As far as Barack Hussein Obama is concerned, we as a country, we need to be brought down a peg or 20 at least. And he's been doing it for the past 8 years.
Wow. I think this is quite devastating. The ICANN. It's one of the things I wanted to talk with you about tonight. Because what's going to happen is, first and foremost, the mainstreamers, they're not listening to the Exceptional Conservative Show. I'm not going to sit here and talk about Venezuela, homeschool queen. I mean, that stuff is irrelevant when it comes to existence in life. But you're talking about one of the greatest technological commodities ever created by man in terms of the field of not only communications, but business, finance, organization. The internet touches everything. And this...
Well, it does. There was last point hope that a federal judge on Friday was going to stem that handover.
Yeah.
But I hope you're sitting down, because it was a federal judge appointed by Barack Hussein Obama, George Hanks Jr. of the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of Texas, who denied an emergency request by 4 states, Arizona, Texas, Oklahoma, and Nevada, for a temporary restraining order to interrupt the handover, which did occur. So he turned it down. He is a Barack Obama appointee. And so that should be not a shock. So the handover did, in fact, occur.
Were there... was this the best fight we had? I know Ted Cruz was fighting on this, and God bless his soul for doing so. But was this the best fight we had against Barack Obama?
If you look into the various roles, 77 people, I'm sorry, I don't remember the numbers, but basically a large percentile, including, sadly, Senator Tom Cotton, who I had a lot more respect for until this, voted not to stop this occurring. So it came up on our radar. We did have the wherewithal to be able to stop it should Congress have desired, and Congress did not so desire.
Wow.
I'm left stupefied. I'm left speechless. But I know where it went, because the very next day, actually a precursor to that, it was reported in the media that the FEC now is aiming its sights on conservative news. That's a story I'll go into if you have the time.
Yeah, go right ahead.
It's your show, sir.
No, go right ahead, Sir Mark. We're talking with Sir Mark, the Bloviating Zeppelin. You can get all his great stuff at bloviatingzeppelin.net. We've been talking about ICANN. It's what America really needs to be talking about right now instead of this tax issue. But I took 60 minutes to talk with you about why the left, the progressives, are trying to fight Donald Trump on his right not to pay any income tax. Thank God for his brilliance and for his CPAs and everyone else's, because he used the system as it is set up. But there is a piece of technology that, my God, the power that emanates from the ability of individuals to shut down, and we've been shut down, and Mark knows this under SHR, we've been shut down many times through the conduits that we use to promote conservative news. Fox was once considered a conservative news station. It's not. It's part of the mainstream now. So the only conservative news and viewpoints that you're getting really are from stations like this, radio programs like this that are on Red Nation Rising, SHR Media, High Plains Pundit Media, Those are the ones who are fighting the good fight. And now the power to shut them down has been given to Europe. And we're about to talk now about the FEC. Go right ahead, sir.
It's a sad state of affairs. The Washington Examiner over the past weekend by author Paul Bedard had a great a great article. And the headline was FEC Dems lay groundwork to ban Fox WSJ political coverage. That's Wall Street Journal. And it goes like this. In the biggest threat yet to conservative media, Democrats on the Federal Election Commission, that's the FEC, the Federal Election Commission, are laying the groundwork to bar companies with even the tiniest foreign ownership from American politics, a move that could ban Fox, the Wall Street Journal, and even the New York Times from covering political races or giving endorsements. There's a massive, by the way, if you didn't know, about 10 to 13% of the New York Times that's owned by a Mexican billionaire, by the name of Slim, I think of his name. It escapes me at this point. So, in a last-minute submission past Wednesday, a top Democrat on the evenly split FEC proposed at the Thursday meeting that the commission begin the process to prohibit companies with foreign ownership as small as 5% from funding expenditures, independent expenditures, or electioneering communications. And that was Democratic Commissioner Ellen Weintraub. And she said in her submission, given everything we've learned this year, it blinks reality to suggest that there is no risk of foreign national overtaking advantage of current loopholes to intercede invisibly in American elections. So she's doing this very cleverly in a loophole in the guise of protecting American elections. We have to protect American elections. Do you see, I'll go on about this later, but as an aside right now, do you see, Ken, that the New York Times seems to be siding with, I don't know, say Mexico a lot, or the Russians, or Chinese? Or they mostly having something to do with America.
Exactly. When they made Vicente Fox editor-in-chief, I kind of gave you an idea. I'm just joking. But the bottom line is they are very pro-Mexico. They're very pro-open borders. They're very pro-Barack Obama and very pro the Marxist strategy for destroying the American economy. The sad thing is that we are allowing our bureaucrats to destroy our country from within. And countries are not destroyed from without, they're destroyed from within. Our bureaucrats are destroying this nation, and they're using the media to help.
It begins that way, and the logic, you always have to think ahead. You always have to do what I call the logical extension.
Yeah.
You must plot and plan 2, 3, 5, 10 moves down the board, because it's a board, and they're moving chess pieces and various pieces around. They'll start with Fox, they'll start with WSJ and the New York Times, and it will come down to everyone else. Okay, so if we sell most anything to foreign nationals, but the precious press, they're saying the precious press must be protected so that it may continue to be the pure, unvarnished, unbiased agent for the left that it is and was. The leftist band of the American media maggots they will not let it be diverted for any reason. So we'll simply make up as much species shite as we possibly can, since we already recognize that the internet, as if this past weekend, it's already been compromised.
Yeah.
So it's just, folks, are you paying attention to what's happening around you? Because what I call the American media maggots, their job is to make sure that you're not paying attention, that you instead delivered bread and circuses like Kim Kardashian losing millions of dollars on an inside job. Who the crap cares about Kim Kardashian? You should be caring about your freedom. Let's not forget that roughly 2 months ago at the DNC, they were hacked, and America learned that the DNC was already helping CBS to create poll questions in a biased, clear, and obvious proportion. So I'm not making any of this crap up. This is happening. It's happening right in front of our faces.
Yes.
Leftists, Democrats, progressives, whatever you want to call them, they really do want to silence you unless your speech, your writings, your opinions, your thoughts are completely congruent with theirs. They will brook no opposition, no pushback, not even discussion. And like the top of my blog says, that is why now I have finally determined I exist for pushback.
Yes.
That's all I'm good for now. That's all I can do.
Unfortunately, because the rest of America has gone to sleep at the wheel, and they are allowing individuals like Barack Obama, Joe Biden, Hillary Rodham Clinton to profess things as though they were, even though they're not. And once they've come to power, they do it. And we sit back and we whine. We've been trained by the RNC to whine and complain. Our founding fathers, regretfully, would be astonished that we have allowed ICANN to be given away, that we have allowed Obamacare to destroy our economy, that we have a war on poverty when our founding father, our true founding father, Jesus Christ, says, hey, poor will be with you always. Good luck with that war. I mean, come on. Wake up, America. Where are you? I'm sorry.
That's precisely it, Ken. That's why while you've been talking, I've been taking hot hits of oxygen to try to calm myself. But wait, there's more. Julian Assange said that he was originally going to come out and spill the beans on WikiLeaks until he had sort of a revelation that, well, you know what, I think my unveiling of the October surprise wasn't going to occur. So in the span of one day, today, I had two absolutely 180-degree posts saying, no, Julian Assange says, no WikiLeaks for you. And now we find out he says, yes, WikiLeaks for you, except I'm not going to be stupid and stand out on a balcony and make my statement like the Pope. But here's the deal. Ladies and gentlemen, did you ever hear that in 2010, and this has now been verified, and Snopes.com can go to hell because I've looked at their statement and they say it's false, except for people under the Hillary regime at that time, employees who worked for the have not denied that. And that is this. In 2010, when Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State, she thought it would be a wonderful idea to conduct a drone strike on on Julian Assange wherever he was. So if today Julian Assange decided that I think I'll back up a bit and not appear in public, I'll simply appear on video. And so if you ever perhaps wonder what it is that Julian Assange, who is essentially a leftist,
yes,
has against Hillary Rodham Clinton, and why he released all those emails on the DNC, which basically resulted in Debbie Wasserman Schultz getting her arse kicked to the curb, and then hired, quiet under the table, hired once again by Hillary Rodham Clinton.
There you go.
Let her go without a job because she knows where the bodies are buried. Why Julian Assange would not be very happy with Hillary Rodham Clinton and would want to perhaps release an arseload of emails about her, it might be that little thingy of Hillary Clinton trying to kill him.
Maybe. But you know, that would be a first under Hillary Rodham Clinton and Bill Clinton. That would be the first, because they're just not known for people dying who turn on them. Really?
No, of course. You know, it's like I said. You know, thank God I'm not on the East Coast like you are, because if I'd been writing all those things, and if I were in the D.C. area, I myself, as overweight as I am, would be found dead in a federal park with my pants around my ankles. I certainly don't want to do that, and I wouldn't want to portray that image on the retinas of any of your listeners right now. That would be terrible.
Well, you know, BZ, you have been quite suicidal recently. So it would be
That's funny. How did you know? How did you know?
And you do have that sleeping disorder, so you know you have to have a pillow over your face. I understand. Exactly. I want to ask you finally.
I know.
Regarding our very, very good friend, Jersey Joe. You wrote a very lovely article about Jersey Joe. Will you tell us all about Jersey Joe and why we should be supporting Jersey Joe?
Every once in a while, I call into Jersey Joe, and until I knew what the SHR media was, and frankly, until I met you and a lot of the underground professor and a lot of other wonderful people in Las Vegas at the Freedom Fest this year, and I think that was July, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, that's correct.
I was not familiar with a lot of the people that were speaking already and had radio shows on SHR media. And so I became aware of the Reaver of Common Sense, and I spoke to him on a couple of shows. And he is a retired firefighter from New Jersey who was on duty on 9/11. And he was injured on the job and left the New Jersey area. And now he's living in an undisclosed bunker, of course, in Florida. But he has his good days and his bad days. And so he has a number of items that he offers for sale on the Reaver of Common Sense point. And he sells some survival bracelets. And I thought that would be interesting to promote his survival bracelets, because this isn't charity. It's not like I was asking people to simply send him a couple of bucks or so because he needs money. No, it's not that. It's not charity. You do in fact get something for your money.
Yeah.
And I thought that because he's part of the emergency response group, that it would be nice to support Jersey Joe and help him out. And he doesn't just ask for the money. He wouldn't do it because that's who he is. Mm-hmm. I don't mind doing it because I'm sort of staging in for him. He wouldn't ask for it. I just decided that it was nice to do it. So I ordered some myself as well, because I sort of put my money where my mouth is. So I thought it was nice if I could get certain people to support Jersey Joe and perhaps look at what it is that he has to offer and take a peek and see if something interests you.
I think it's a wonderful thing. And we put that out on our Facebook, also at Ustream, and also here in the chat room at theexceptionalconservativeshow.com. We want you all to openly support Jersey Joe. Not just because he was a first responder on 9/11, although if that moves you, it should. And not just because he's a first responder and certainly a better first responder than Sean is. Because he's
touche.
Oh, I'm going to hear it for Sean on that one.
You are. Guaranteed. You are.
But most certainly because he's our friend. And he's a wonderful man.
Yes, he's our friend. And I know him. I don't know him all that well, but I know him enough to know that he would be embarrassed if he would go out and actively solicit for something like that, because that's not his nature. That's not the nature of emergency responders. He was injured in terms of duty on the job. And I just felt that, like people in certain circumstances like that, it's time to put up a shut up. So I figured if of all the people that I could promote he would be the one. I hope he's not embarrassed. I hope he does get some sales. But I didn't do it to embarrass him. I simply did it because I thought it was the right thing to do at the time.
Exactly. He's a great man, and so are you, Sir Mark, the Bloviating Zeppelin. How can people read your great, great writings and great materials?
I am on, Sir Ken, bloviatingzeppelin.net. I own it. I keep it. Google doesn't have anything to do with it. And also I can be found on Twitter at BZEP, B-Z-E-P. And once I get the huevos, I may be going onto Facebook, but I'm sort of I'm being dragged kicking and screaming onto Facebook. I'm not there yet, and I'm still considering it.
Take a slow move on that one. Search things out. Maybe. Not necessarily, but maybe. Take a look at it. Love you, man. God bless you.
I'm not altogether convinced yet.
Neither am I. I'm there. All right, man. Talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you ever so kindly, Ken. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it, sir.
Always. The Bloviating Zeppelin. Sir Mark with us tonight. From some spot in the world, we are looking for a place that happens should ever Hillary Rodham Clinton become president. Maybe the Republic of Texas. I don't know. It just makes sense. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back with more of the best in urban conservative talk. And we want to finish out tonight, and we want to talk about the decisions that you're going to have to make regarding whether, let's just say this, is it your fault? Really? Really, is it your fault?
Time for an unpleasant blind guy conservative bite. On September the 19th, 2016, I spent some time on the Exceptional Conservative Show, hosted by Ken McClinton.
Dave Miller, the unpleasant blind guy.
How you doing?
Doing great.
I needed to speak to you tonight because I need to make a small correction. When I spoke to you on the 12th and you had me on the phone program, I said that Sharia courts did not accept a woman's accusation of rape unless she was backed up by 7 male witnesses, and the actual number is 4. 4. I made a mistake there, so, and yes, it still is an indicator that women are treated like livestock in this line of law, but a little correction needs to be made.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's Dave Milner.
Now, some may be asking, why did I bother to do that? When someone makes an error on one of the cable news channels, normally they correct that in a tweet, as I corrected my mistake on Facebook not long after I made it. But I went to the trouble to go to the source and correct what I had said because there was a point to be made. The point that while the people of the United States of America were under attack, the highest priority of progressive popular media was shilling for their favorite political candidate. While bombs were being discovered in New York City and in New Jersey, and a stabbing had been reported in St. Cloud, Minnesota, a quote-unquote journalist was asking Hillary Clinton if ISIS was attacking to try to swing the presidential election to Donald Trump's favor. This, of course, gave the darling of leftist media an opportunity to repeat an old, tired line that if people keep saying that Muslims are violent, they're going to be violent. No one knew the extent of the attacks or if they would crop up anywhere else. But priority one for leftist media had to be addressed. Make an opportunity, if you can, to make Hillary Clinton look good and Donald Trump look bad. At any time, more Americans could be attacked, held hostage, injured, tortured, or killed, but priority one is spinning the situation in favor of Hillary Clinton. CNN even went to the trouble of editing Hillary Clinton's remarks so that they could accuse Donald Trump of scaremongering when he mentioned a bombing, and, if you hadn't seen the raw footage, Hillary Clinton responding with measured and thoughtful caution. You've heard from more than one source the message that we must modify our speech about violent Islam or Muslims will become more violent. Let me give you a little something you may not have heard.
This comes from Robert Spencer on Jihad Watch, posted September the 19th, 2016. In this article with the headline, Journalist Asks Clinton if ISIS is attacking to try to swing election to Trump, is a nugget you're not going to hear a lot of other places. Certainly, you're not going to hear it on the cable news channels or other left-centric media. The Islamic State wrote in its Dabiq magazine recently, even if you were to stop bombing us, imprisoning us, torturing us, vilifying us, and usurping our lands, we would continue to hate you because our primary reason for hating you will not cease to exist until you embrace Islam. People, it's not about rhetoric, modifying our speech, and attempting to appease those who will not be appeased will gain us nothing. We have to demand that those who report the news do it honestly and fairly, man up when they make mistakes, and realize that we are not in a war of violent extremism. We are in the war that Islam started against the entire civilized world over 1,400 years ago. This has been an unpleasant blind guy, conservative fight.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you so much for listening tonight to our program.
Pleasant blind guy, conservative fight.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Dave. Dave is the consummate marketer. Live from the nation's capital, you're listening to the Exceptional Conservative Show. You're in the non-commercial segment of our program. No more commercials tonight. I want to thank Sir Mark, the Bloviating Zeppelin, for coming on the air with us tonight. But our focus tonight has been on Donald J. Trump and taxes. Well, not really Donald J. Trump and taxes, because I am one who believes the Donald is correct. When the audit is over, I'll let you know. I'll be open and honest with you, and I'll give you my records. But I don't want to put an audited tax return in the public eye for fear that it might be influenced, or there might be influences upon those who are reviewing it. It's reasonable for all of us. I don't think any journalists, and I've seen the wimpy, whiny journalists that cover these events, would ever appreciate their information being put into the public eye. And there will be those who say, well, since Richard Nixon, every presidential candidate has put their stuff out there. Well, before Richard Nixon, what? You see, you're still a private citizen until you've won public office. And at such time, you have the right to protect your privacy, especially your tax returns. Now, when it gets into the public eye, trust me, it's over. No one ever talks about Hillary Rodham Clinton and her husband's tax return, in which the sizable portion, I mean, extremely sizable portion of their benevolence, their gifting, was to themselves at the Clinton Foundation. No one ever talks about that. But somehow our focus is on Donald Trump. And how can he be a great businessman if he lost so much money? I want to explain something to you. And I'll use the ideal of love. You will never know how far you're willing to go, what you're willing to do, what you're willing to risk and say when you love someone. Sometimes love will blind us because of our passions. Sometimes it will lead us to misunderstanding scenarios and situations. But we do it for love. Now, there are lots of business people out there, and I've come across a lot of them, And I've asked many of them who had some great ideas, why didn't you just take your idea to the public and make it a national thing? Why did you stay where you were? And they said they were committed to their community. They didn't want to go anywhere else. They just wanted to grow their community. Make certain that the people that came home from prison had a job. Make certain that the person who was out of work had a starting place. You see, Miss Janice over there, she's been with me for 20 years at this deli, but she didn't have to be. She went to school at night after leaving the deli, and she took care of her kids, and her kids graduated from school, and she could be doing so much more, but she chooses to work with me. Ladies and gentlemen, I just want you all to understand that in business, if you risk $800 million, you probably invested $1.6 billion. You probably have put in a whole lot more than you will ever report. And you do it because you have a love. You know, some people will misunderstand it as narcissism, and it's all about the you. It's all about you. You're doing it for you. But sometimes when you're doing this, the purpose in the job that you have is to take care of your fellow man, to be your brother's keeper, to give them something that no one else can do. Is it the job and purpose of government to redistribute wealth? It's a good question. My opinion is that I don't think they do a good job with their current job. Why give them the extended job of redistributing? But this is what Paul Kengor, and I've got to have him back on my program. Dr. Kengor is a professor of political science and executive director of the Center for Vision and Values at Grove City College. He wrote, America's progressive income tax did not start until nearly 140 years after the American Revolution, with implementation under President Woodrow Wilson, the progressive in 1913, and only after an intense, nasty debate that still rages a century later. If Dean and O'Donnell want an early document that argues for a graduated or progressive income tax, they need to look overseas into 1848, decades before Woodrow Wilson, with the publication of Karl Marx's Communist Manifesto. If you go to page 75 of the Penguin Signet Classics edition of the Manifesto, or page 26 of the online version, and you can click here. In fact, let me give you that link. I'll put that in the chat roll for you. You can see Marx's 10-point program. Point 2, which followed Marx's unapologetic call for abolition of property, explicitly calls for a heavy, progressive, or graduated income tax. Kengor goes on to say, no, I'm not calling Lawrence O'Donnell and Howard Dean communists, but I am calling them leftists and redistributionists. That's what they are, as is their definition of government. Their definition is first and foremost theirs, not America's. I want y'all to understand something. Whether you owe taxes or not really my business. I am concerned when you don't have enough to meet your needs. And in my individual choice, I will attempt to provide for it if I can. But I've seen hundreds of small business owners and large corporate owners in my lifetime. And they sweat at the end of the quarter, hoping that they have enough revenue to pay all of their employees. And I've had and worked for a company in which I knew that the person who was writing that check didn't have enough to cover their own slice of the payroll. In fact, didn't pay themselves for 3 months. I've personally gone 9 months without getting paid at a nonprofit. People do things because they love it and are willing to take the risk necessary to keep their love alive. When you're in government, you don't have to love it. You just take it. And then you give it. after you've taken your cut. I want you to understand, as we come to the close of this segment, that it's not the job and purpose of government to redistribute wealth. It's really your job. It is your job to bless so that others may not curse. Marxism is alive and well in America. And until we repeal the 1913 Income Tax Amendment, we will watch our country die from the perils of greed, misguided patriotism, and selfish ambition. That's not moral, my friends. A friend of mine told me, always can be brave. Don't ever die a coward. I promise you I always will. On behalf of Sir Mark the Bloviating Zeppelin and all others, especially Mary, my bouncer, and Mrs. Biggs, who's been watching, I thank you all so much for tuning in. And I want you to remember one thing. God has blessed America. It's time for America to bless God. We'll see you tomorrow night on the Exceptional Conservative Show, live from the nation's capital.